My husband said it was just a game, but what that stranger did made me cry. It started out like any other evening. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when my husband walked in with a mischievous smile on his face. "Let's play a game," he said, waving a small envelope in front of me. I laughed, thinking it was just one of his silly ideas to pass the time. We hadn't really connected in a while, and honestly, I was just happy he wanted to do something together. He told me the rules were simple: open the envelope, follow the instructions inside, and trust him. "It's just a game," he promised, squeezing my hand lightly. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was his way of bringing us closer again. But as I opened the envelope, a strange feeling twisted in my stomach. The note inside led me to a small cafe downtown, a place we used to visit when we were first dating. It felt nostalgic at first, almost sweet. I thought he had planned a surprise, something romantic to remind us of better times. But when I got there, he wasn't waiting for me. Instead, a complete stranger was sitting at our favorite corner table, holding a small, worn-out photograph in his hand. When he looked up and locked eyes with me, it felt like the whole world around me stopped. There was something painfully familiar about him, but I couldn't understand why. He slid the photograph across the table without saying a word, and when I saw what was in it, my hands started trembling. Tears filled my eyes before I could even process what was happening. And that was just the beginning. What that stranger revealed next shattered everything I thought I knew about my husband. My fingers tightened around the photograph, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. It was a picture of me, but not recent. It was from years ago, taken at a park I barely even remembered visiting. I was standing there, laughing, carefree, and next to me in the photo was the same stranger now sitting across from me. Only, I had no memory of ever meeting him. I looked up at him, my mouth dry, trying to form words, but he just gave a small, sad smile, as if he understood the confusion and fear running through me. "You don't remember, do you?" he asked quietly. His voice was soft, almost familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. I shook my head slowly, my mind racing with questions I couldn't even begin to ask. Before I could say anything, he reached into his jacket and pulled out another envelope, similar to the one my husband had given me. He pushed it across the table gently. "He thought it was just a game," the stranger said, his voice breaking slightly. "But for me, it was never a game. Every part of me wanted to stand up and leave, to run far away from this cafe and this man and the photograph that didn't make any sense. But my legs wouldn't move. My mind wouldn't let me. I needed to know more, even if I was terrified of what I might find out." As I hesitantly opened the second envelope, more pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I was part of began to spill out. A letter, a small necklace with a broken clasp, a ticket stub from a concert I never remembered attending. Each item felt like a whisper from a past that didn't belong to me, or one I had somehow forgotten. The stranger watched me carefully, almost like he was afraid I might disappear if he looked away. I clutched the necklace in my hand, feeling the cold metal press into my skin. A thousand questions burned inside me. Who was he? Why did he have these things? And most of all, what did my husband have to do with all of this? I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, he leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Before you left, you made me a promise," he said, "and I've been waiting ever since." My heart dropped. Waiting for what? I stared at him, my mind spinning. A promise? I couldn't even remember meeting him, let alone making some promise that would leave a stranger waiting for years. My hands shook as I set the necklace and letter down on the table, trying to steady myself. I think you have the wrong person, I whispered, my voice barely coming out. But deep down, some tiny part of me wasn't so sure. He leaned back in his chair, sadness written all over his face. I wish I did, he said softly. It would have been easier that way. The cafe around us buzzed with normal life, people chatting, coffee cups clinking, but it felt like we were trapped inside our own little bubble, like the rest of the world had faded away. I looked at the letter again, the handwriting oddly familiar, almost like a version of mine from long ago. But it made no sense. Why couldn't I remember any of this? I don't understand, I said, forcing myself to meet his eyes. Who are you? He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held more pain than happiness. I'm someone who once mattered to you, he said, before everything changed. A strange pressure built in my chest, a mix of fear and something else I couldn't name. How could someone I didn't remember carry so much emotion in just a few words? I wanted answers, but part of me was scared to hear them. And then another thought crept in. Was my husband somehow involved in keeping this secret from me? Did he know who this man was? Was that why he brushed it off as just a game? As I sat there, questions piling up, I thought back to the past few months, the distance between my husband and me, the way he seemed distracted, the late-night calls he brushed off as work. I had tried to ignore it, convincing myself that every marriage had rough patches. But now I wondered if there was more going on than I ever imagined. The stranger stood up slowly and slid a small folded note across the table. This will help you remember, he said, but only if you're ready. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the note. 1,000 doubts screamed at me to walk away, to forget this ever happened. But another part of me, the part that still ached for answers, wouldn't let me move. Without thinking, I reached for the note. My fingers brushed over the folded paper, feeling its weight even though it was so light. I could feel the stranger's eyes on me, waiting, almost holding his breath. 1,000 warnings flashed in my mind, but curiosity pushed them all aside. I unfolded the note carefully, the edges trembling between my fingers. Inside was a single sentence, handwritten in the same familiar slanted script as the letter. It read, "You promised you'd find your way back no matter what." I blinked at the words, my throat tightening. Something inside me stirred, a memory just out of reach, like a dream you forget the moment you open your eyes. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to breathe. None of it made sense. How could I have made a promise I didn't remember? Why was he so sure I had? The stranger reached into his jacket again and placed an old, worn-out locket on the table. It clicked open with a soft sound. Inside, there was a picture of me, younger, happier, and him standing beside me. His arm was around my shoulder, my smile wide and bright. I couldn't deny it anymore. Somehow, somewhere, we had shared something real, something important. But then why had it all been erased from my mind? The stranger's voice cut through my thoughts. "You were taken from me," he said, pain thick in his words. And he knew. My heart stuttered. He? My husband? The man I trusted more than anyone? My mind fought against it, tried to push the idea away, but tiny cracks had already started to form. The game, the envelope, the way he acted so casual about it all. Was it possible he had hidden a part of my past from me? On purpose? The cafe suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in around me. I needed answers, but I was terrified of what I might find. My hands clenched the note tightly, the paper crumpling between my fingers. The stranger leaned in one last time, his voice low and urgent. "If you want the truth," he said, You'll have to come with me, but once you do, there's no going back. My heart thundered in my ears. I looked at the door, the world I knew waiting outside, and then back at the stranger, holding pieces of a life I didn't even remember living. I had a choice to make, but either way, my life was about to change forever. I sat there frozen, feeling like the ground beneath me might split open any second. The stranger's words echoed in my ears, louder than the clinking of coffee cups or the quiet hum of conversations around us. Come with him, or stay trapped in a life built on half-truths. I didn't trust him. How could I? But a bigger part of me didn't trust the life I had anymore either. My hand hovered over the locket once more, and that's when I saw it. Inside the tiny hinge, tucked almost invisibly, was a folded corner of paper. My heart skipped a beat. Carefully, I pulled it out. It was a torn piece of a photo, not the same one he had shown me earlier. This one showed a woman, but it wasn't me. Confused, I looked up at him, but he seemed just as startled. His face lost all color. You weren't supposed to see that yet, he whispered, voice trembling. For a second, the certainty I had felt cracked. Maybe I didn't know what I was stepping into after all. Maybe this wasn't just about forgotten promises or lost memories. Maybe it was something even darker. I pressed him for answers, my voice shaking. Who is she? He swallowed hard, his gaze dropping to the table. She's the reason you forgot, he said. The reason you're living a life that was never meant for you. The room seemed to tilt. A second life? Another woman tangled up in this mess? My mind spun with possibilities. Had my husband hidden more than just a past relationship? Was there someone else involved? Someone who had something to lose if I remembered everything? The stranger's hands trembled as he spoke. They made you forget, he said. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some game. It was planned. Planned. That word cut deeper than anything else. I thought of the nights my husband had looked at me with sadness in his eyes, the moments when it felt like he was carrying some heavy secret he couldn't tell me. Was this why? Before I could ask anything else, his phone buzzed sharply against the table. He glanced at it and stiffened. They know you're remembering, he said urgently. We have to move, now. Panic shot through me, like a jolt of electricity. I looked around the cafe, suddenly seeing shadows where there had been none before. Had someone been watching us this whole time? I shoved the torn photo into my pocket and stood up shakily. My instincts screamed at me to run, but run where? Toward the stranger who claimed to know my real life, or back to the man who might have helped erase it? As we slipped out the side door, my mind raced faster than my feet. If what he said was true, then everything, my marriage, my memories, even my sense of self, could all be lies. And if that was the case, what else had been kept from me that I wasn't ready to find out? We ran down the narrow alley behind the cafe, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure someone could hear it. The stranger led me through winding streets, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. Finally, we stopped behind an old bookstore, hidden from view. He pulled out his phone and showed me a video without saying a word. It was grainy, like it had been recorded secretly. In the video, I saw myself. But it wasn't the life I remembered. I was standing with him, laughing, holding his hand, kissing him under a street lamp. My stomach twisted painfully. This wasn't just some brief meeting from the past. We were in love, deep, real love. And then I saw my husband in the background of the video, watching us, not from a distance of curiosity, but of rage. Tears blurred my vision as the truth hit me. My husband hadn't just hidden my past. He had taken it from me, stolen my memories, forced me into a life I didn't choose. The woman in the torn photo, she was part of the plan too. Someone he used to replace parts of my life so the lies would seem more real. I stumbled back, struggling to breathe. Why would he do this? I cried, voice breaking. The stranger's eyes were full of sadness. Because he couldn't stand to lose you, and he knew you never loved him the way you loved me. Before I could process it all, a car screeched to a stop nearby. My husband jumped out, panic and fury flashing across his face. "Come with me," he shouted, reaching for me. "You don't know what you're doing." For one terrifying second, I froze. I thought about the life we built, or rather, the life he forced into existence. And then I looked at the stranger, the pain and hope in his eyes. My real past, my real choice. I turned away from my husband, but just as I did, the final twist came. The stranger's hand tightened on mine, and he whispered, "I'm sorry. I had to make you remember, because you made the same promise to him once too." I stared at him, stunned. The world spun again. The truth was even messier than I ever imagined, and now I had to decide whose betrayal hurt less and which broken past I was willing to live with. The world around me seemed to hold its breath as I stood between two men, both tied to parts of my life I barely understood anymore. My husband called out my name again, softer this time, almost pleading, and the stranger, the one who had fought so hard to bring back my memories, held onto my hand like letting go would shatter everything. I took a shaky breath, trying to steady my heart. I needed to know the full truth. Slowly, I turned to the stranger. "Tell me everything," I said, my voice low but steady. "No more secrets." He nodded, pain flickering in his eyes. "Before you lost your memories, you loved both of us, but your heart was torn. You made promises, promises to me and promises to him. When you disappeared after the accident, he found you first. He chose to rewrite your life, to keep you with him. An accident." Pieces clicked together in my mind. Flashes of hospitals, blurred faces, the strange emptiness I had always felt deep down, but could never explain. My husband had seen an opening, and he had built a whole new life on top of it. I turned to look at him, seeing the guilt carved into every line of his face. "I loved you," he said, voice cracking. "I just didn't know how to lose you." Tears welled up in my eyes. The choice that had been stolen from me was now back in my hands, not because anyone deserved it, but because I deserved it. I deserved to choose my life, my love, my future. I stepped back from both of them, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "I need time," I said simply. "Time to figure out who I am, without anyone rewriting my story." Neither man tried to stop me. They just stood there, watching as I walked away, leaving the pain and the lies behind. That day, I didn't choose either of them. I chose myself. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of the unknown. I knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Healing never is. But at least now, every step I took would be mine. In the end, life isn't about the memories someone gives you. It's about the ones you decide to create for yourself. And this time, I was ready to start over, with nothing but the truth leading the way.